there, everybody, and welcome back to our once annual episode of the Free Rotation podcast. If you don't remember who I am, my name is Becky, and I'm joined by Chris.
Hello.
And I'm also joined by Angie.
Hello.
And this is technically my episode, but Angie did all the research. So she's going to talk about it. Yay! So, yeah, Punky, why don't you tell what we're talking about? We're a professional podcast. Do.
Okay, so Becky and I were watching Expedition X and the Hellfire Club episode came on.
I will say you were probably watching it more intensely than I was. I think I dozed off at some point.
I think you were watching it pretty intently.
I did. I was watching it pretty intently. I feel like I absorbed a lot of information. I had dreams about caves last night, so I think that was partially it.
And at the end of it, Becky and I were like, we should do a podcast episode on that one.
Yeah.
Because it was all about satanic and secret societies and people's hearts getting ripped out of their chests.
They're like, this hunting lodge is haunted because they ripped the heart out of this man.
And it was obviously like the underground river. Something was sus because it was pure. It was so clear. Like, you couldn't even tell there was water there.
And meanwhile, it was also taking place in Ireland. So it was like, oh, it's like, of course, something dark and satanic is happening in Ireland. Let's get behind this. So,
ESPN's getting in on the action too.
Yeah. They were very excited about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a good episode. It seemed pretty entertaining.
Becky messaged Chris and was like, Hellfire Club, let's go. And Chris, because Chris is always supportive, goes, okay.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, sure.
Whatever y'all want to do, dude.
So we were prepared.
We are prepared to tell you about the Hellfire Club.
To bring you a titillating, exciting story of not Satanism.
Yeah, not Satanism. Definitely not D&D related either.
Nobody's hearts got ripped out.
Nobody's hearts got ripped out. This is one of those things where you're like, the TV makes it much more interesting than what the actual facts
well, it
are.
made it scarier because you know what? This was interesting. They could have gone down the Freemason route and it would have been equally as exciting.
Well, I was going to say, it's also like, it was interesting in the fact that it seemed so dark and haunted and, Ireland and its moors in the fog. You see this one building and they're doing satanic ritual sacrifice.
And there's like carvings and paintings of penises, so immediately Satanism.
That was about, and Freudian, if you want to think about it. There's a lot of penis in there.
A big penis, Satanism.
Yeah. Because who else would have a big pee-pee but Satan himself? I mean, can't spell penis without Satan, I guess.
Sure.
I'm just along for the ride at this point.
You know what? The name Hellfire Club didn't even come around until centuries later.
Yeah.
Literal centuries.
Well, why don't we start from the beginning of time, prior to Satanism even existing, that this club started?
Exactly.
So not probably prior to Satanism, but prior to what we think of as Satanism.
Yeah. Because it was kind of interesting thinking about it. It's like the 1700s, they had Satanism, and I'm like, doesn't it become a thing in like the 1900s?
Yes, they didn't dig through the ditches and burn the witches. They drowned
them, a lot of them, though.
Yeah, but it wasn't really so much like what we know as satanic practices modernly. It was some fun stuff. Anyways,
okay, so you know what did high society rakes in Britain and Ireland do in the 18th century? Really,
there was nothing to do.
They made societies.
Yes,
they made elitist societies. That's what they did. And they just joined these exclusive clubs where they could have a lot of fun and be blasphemous. Basically, think of like, you have money, there's nothing to do. It's not like you can really do anything. Like, what is there to do?
Right. Really just make other people feel bad about not being part of your club. Kind of like high school. Like, think about high school. There's not much to do in high school. So what do? You just join a bunch of clubs and make people feel bad about not being able to join it. So therefore, this is just how it was.
I'm already jealous.
So.
I'm already jealous. Well, the first official Hellfire... Let's start this. It's not a heifer club. Although it kind of was, because the first club actually allowed men and women to join as equals, which was really unheard of when you're talking about 1718.
Yeah.
But the first official Hellfire Club was formed in London in 1718 by Philip Wharton, who was the first Duke of Wharton. Mm-hmm. And since he's the first Duke, boom, he was the one given the title for the first time in his family. And he had some friends, and we don't really know who these friends are of his. It wasn't really talked about. He was the first club, but he by no means was the most notorious club or the one that lasted the longest. Because the most notorious was founded in England by Francis Dashwood. But once again, didn't call it the Hellfire Club. His was called the Order of the Friars of St. Francis of Wycombe. amongst some other things like St. Francis Knights of St. Francis, blah, 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 blah.
Sounds very exciting.
But there were a lot of gentlemen's clubs at the time. And, you know, people would join these. There was like a gentlemen's club for poetry, a gentlemen's club for philosophy. And they would just get around and talk about these things. So Duke Wharton was like, you know what? I want to have a satirical gentlemen's club because I'm sick of the gentlemen's clubs. He's like, and I'm going to make it, and it's just going to be anti-biblical. It's like everything anti-Bible. So he made this satirical club, and the devil was the president, and they were all devils who were members, and, you know, they just made fun of the Bible. And honestly, it was a common practice in England at the time to kind of be blasphemous and not put a lot of faith in the Bible, because you got to think at this time, there's a lot of fighting between, not Pentecostals.
She's looking for the word Protestant.
Yeah, and I was going to say not Presbyterians, Protestants and Catholics.
That's just as bad. That's like a Wednesday in the South. Who's got the better potluck? The Pentecostals or the Presbyterians?
The Methodists.
The Southern Baptists.
Yeah. That's because they have nothing else to do but make food.
Well, them bitches can do it.
Yeah, but you better not pull off some cards. Oh, so like, yeah, Duke Wharton's club, they play cards on Sunday.
Oh, how dare ye not go
What are you going to do about it?
Well, and it's kind of funny because it's like just the way that they were like, let's be as edgy as possible.
That's kind of what it was. Like, they just kind of threw off this society's morality and, you know, these biblical, you know, impositions on your life. Like, they let men and women join equally, but they couldn't meet in the tavern because women can't be seen in taverns.
Right.
So they met up somewhere that I can't think of the name of right now, but they met there.
They met at a place.
By God, they met there.
A designated area where people knew where to go, but we don't.
You know, and I still don't find it on my page.
This is what happens when we have biannual podcasts.
I don't think I actually wrote it down, but they met there.
Was it the Eagle Tavern?
Maybe.
There was the one I think the Irish one is where they met at the Eagle Tavern.
It's not. This is the London one.
Okay, so I don't think it.
So it's a tavern in London.
It's a tavern in London.
They met there. But what happened was one of Wharton's political enemies went to King George, who had given him the title of Duke, and was like whispering like, "Oh, they're very seditious. You know, they're talking shit about you too, not just the Bible." And who knows? Maybe they did. It was a place of free thinkers and free speech, so King George went to him and was like, hey, get your shit together or you can get out of Parliament.
Right.
And you can go into exile. So he ended up discontinuing his group in 1721. And then he joined the Freemasons and actually became the Grand Master of England in 1722. So I kind of think he was probably already a Freemason.
Right.
Like, I don't see you joining and becoming the Grand Master in a year.
Yeah. It's like you get the VIP access. Like, you get, like, 300 followers, and suddenly you're like, okay, now, I'm now Grand Master. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Cat.
So, two things. Okay. One, it's called a Worshipful Master, not the Grand Master. That's the clan.
Wait, they say Grand Master
and two, it's not based on longevity of how long you've been there. In Masonry, as soon as you achieve the rank of Master Mason, it's a vote. It's whoever you want to be the Worshipful Master.
Okay.
So maybe it was just popularity contest.
That's really what it boils down to.
Well, he was a pretty popular guy.
So it doesn't matter if you've been there for 2 months. If it's time for a new Worshipful Master, which is once a year, if you get voted in, you get voted in.
I swear to y'all, the internet's a grandmaster, so this is where we are.
Yeah, the more you know.
I was thinking, I don't think that's...
What you really don't realize is he's grandmaster, but for the marching band. So that's really what it was. He wasn't any sort of
I think
figurehead.
that's a different master, isn't it?
No, I think you go back.
I'm pretty sure it's Master of Ceremonies, not Grand Master. That's a clan reference.
Well, I mean, we also are.
Becky's
in the South.
getting the pointy hat on their head just from
digging
South, through the ditches.
They just adopted it.
Did they cut holes in their pillowcases? Is that what we're doing?
You know what? Whatever. You started it.
No, I didn't.
I was just point of ordering it.
Wikipedia started it. You know, somebody changed it. The Grandmaster's like, some bitch is going to say this on a podcast. I bet. Watch this. This is going to be good.
Good news. Emma Mason can correct.
Yeah. Very good news. And since Wikipedia, anybody can make changes, I'm going to go make that change on Wikipedia. Be like, listen, you evil sons of bitches.
Master.
Master of ceremonies.
Master of puppets.
Just massa.
Oh, God. That's perfect.
It's like, he was the Grand Massa.
He was the massa.
Did y'all know that Freemasons were racist? Look at this shit.
This is actually like The Ring, where like every podcast that goes in just changes it because it just keeps like people just keep messing it up. So like in 7 days we had to come up with something else, so we'll have to go change it for the next podcast to be like something really stupid.
It's not the Grand Massa? Like no.
Nope.
The next will be like, it's not Master of Ceremonies?
Is it Master Roshi? What are we doing? No, again,
He's a master debater? I'm so confused.
Again, even as worshipful master of a lodge, it's not like you get to, everything's voted on.
Yeah.
Your say isn't.
Damn democracy.
They are very, typically with Masonic voting, one no is a no. If it's 100 yeses and a no, if the lodge isn't completely together on it, it's a no. Mm-hmm. So that's just how it goes.
It is what it is.
Well, they call him the pretender to the throne, but the Scottish guy, Philip, who was like, I'm the Scottish king. He was a Freemason, and people think that he also pulled Wharton in, just like he pulled Dashwood in, who is the guy we're going to get into next, because that's pretty much the original Hellfire Club, which didn't call it Hellfire Club.
It was like order of...
But did I write down what he called it? No, I did not.
Yeah, you did. You said it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Good.
You can go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Biannual podcast. Dun, dun, dun,
dun. Well, so a little while later, and this was a couple of years even after...
Damn it, Taco Cat.
Wharton's branch and... No, that's Grenade Cat.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Wharton's branch failed. Francis Dashwood, he was a different story. He and the Earl of Sandwich.
The guy who invented sandwiches?
I will never get tired of talking about the Earl of Sandwich.
I feel like it's just a sad thing to have your name be the Earl of Sandwich, because like you have all these like really cool people with like really cool names, and all you're ever going to be known for, even though you didn't invent sandwiches, is the fact that
they did though.
Somebody stuck 2 pieces of turkey between bread. I don't think he actually was the one who invented it. I think that was like debunked. No, I'm serious. I feel like it was actually invented by somebody else, and he just adopted it.
Maybe he's the one who brought it into this part of the world.
You think we know the name of the guy who put meat in bread? We don't.
Yeah.
But he's the one that's credited with it.
He popularized it, I guess. Yeah. Like, you go to his house and you eat tiny,
Marco Polo didn't discover spices, but he discovered spices. Like, this is where we're at. We need a name.
But, I mean, just imagine that. But, like, that's still such a lame thing to be known as. Like, hey, man, I stuck a piece of cheese and between 2 pieces of bread. That is my accomplishment in the world.
I would fucking kill to be known as the guy who invented sandwiches.
You could be the Earl of Cheesesteak. How about that?
On fucking board today.
What would be the dumbest thing you could be the Earl of?
Well, you know what I think the dumbest song ever is, now that I'm thinking about it, is Duke of Earl. Like, what the fuck is that about?
Duke of Earl? Oh, yeah, because that's too...
Yeah.
It's like
Duke of Earl? What?
Like Earl Grey? Like, what would be the dumbest thing to be ever titled? Duke of Mayonnaise? Duke's Mayonnaise? No, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Duke of Daisies? Like, Daisy Duke?
Duke of Dookies?
I would be the Duke of Dookies. I'm not even going to lie to you.
I feel like there's not... Seriously, though, think about it. What would you not want to be the Duke of?
Rebecca's.
Shut up. Maybe something dumb.
Anyways,
Rebecca's.
That's a hand. You just couldn't. You'd give up the title.
Y'all just mad because I outthought that.
Yep. That's it.
Grand Massa.
Hi, I words.
Listen, this podcast went down.
I definitely don't words for a living. This is great.
Listen, I'm off today.
I words, but I can't read my words. So
You're like, I wrote this down somewhere.
I even tried to write neatly. Fuck this handwriting. That's mine.
People complain about having to learn how to write, like in cursive. This is why typewriting started, or any sort of typing ability.
Probably.
You say that. I will, side note, going through a recently deceased older person's everything that was handwritten, those people had fucking calligraphy handwriting.
I know.
It is fucking amazing. And she has script that's a millimeter tall, but you can read it. I'm like, how is this possible in cursive? What? But imagine back
in the day, though, for like stenographers or anybody like that, where they didn't have, or court reporters, where they had to write stuff down in like symbols and stuff like that, which we still do, but we don't do it as prevalent because, typing and, computers. But to me, that is a skill that is sadly lost, which is, something you don't ever get. We won't probably ever have back because of
there will always be
technology.
like calligraphers, people that
Yes.
do it as an art form. But
Yes.
like, my generation was kind of the last one where they hammered it into us. You need to learn cursive. Every teacher you're going to have above fourth grade
It was the same for
wants
me.
you to know cursive. And then when you get to like middle school and high school, like, please fucking print.
Yeah.
I can't read your chicken scratch. Print.
Yeah.
And it was like, I never used cursive once in high school.
I used cursive because we learned it in like, I think 3rd and 4th grade. Up until 6th grade is when we had to use it. And then at that point, they're like, we have this new class. It's called typing.
Yeah.
And everything needs to be printed because that's how it's all going to start looking once computers really start taking over.
I only use calligraphy text on my computer to really piss people off.
Yes. Comic Sans. So classy.
Just wingdings. Just, what are we talking about?
I just was like, who's the guy who just was like, I want to be the Earl of Wingdings.
Oh.
That is a useless thing to have.
Earl of Wingdings.
Earl of Wingdings. Like, cool. I can now, like, in my 3rd grade class, let's send a thing and be like, you can copy and paste it, change it to see what it actually says. Like, what was the point of it? What was the point?
It looked cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
like,
in your Valorant name, you maybe can use a wingding.
and not only
True.
that, but like, it's literally just symbols that represent sounds, which is exactly what letters are.
So Dashwood and the Earl of Sandwich,
Not
They-
the Earl of Wingdings.
not the Earl of Wingdings, the Earl of Sandwich, they started that Hellfire Club, which, by the way, wasn't known as the Hellfire Club until centuries later. And they started at the George and Vulture Inn throughout the 1930s is where they would meet. It originally started
1930s or 1730s?
the 1730s. I did write something that vaguely resembles a 9. Could be a 7.
It's a wingding.
Anyways, they're ghosts, and we're 1730s.
Becky's a wingding.
Becky is a wingding.
Y'all just mad because I'm a cool ass symbol.
And they called it the Order of the Knights of St. Francis or the Friars of St. Francis, Friars, Monks. You know, it had a variety of names. And they officially founded it in 1746, and they met at the same inn. So he had started it, and then they officially founded it, and then that's where they continued to meet, was at the George and Vulture Inn. And they met in this room that had a huge crystal chandelier surrounded by an Ouroboros of gold, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
He also, when he first took over his family's land and stuff, they had a church there, one of the oldest churches actually at the time, because it was built in like 525 BC. And he redid it to take out a lot of the religious motifs, and at the very top of it, he put a big golden globe, so it would resemble like the Palace of the Sun in Damascus. And there were seating for 10 people up there. And that's why he limited it to 12 people max at the beginning, also, for the 12 disciples and stuff. But they would go up there and they would play cards in the Golden Dome at the top of the church. So it was pretty neat that he did that. But the model of this was, fais ce que tu voudrais, which means do what thou wilt. And we know this phrase.
Yep. It's very pagan.
Aleister Crowley took it.
He sure did it, which probably is why they connected it with satanic worship. But that's like used in most pagan religions.
It is. Do what you will.
Do what you will.
Just harm none. Do what you will.
Yeah,
he did.
That's old school.
The harm none, but he just do what
he
they
just
will.
wanted. Actually, I think it was just like the old historical "I do what I want" kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 1758, one of their frequent visitors, I almost said frequent flyers, frequent visitors was Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
And this is what kills me when people say our founding fathers were Christian, because no, they were freethinkers. They believed in the divinity of man. And I can only imagine what Ben Franklin would say if he knew that people said he as a founding father was Christian.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd laugh at them, challenge them to a duel, or what.
Well, again,
fuck their wives, probably.
Their version, and again, they had religious beliefs, but their version is different than what ours is, as it has been throughout the ages.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a Ben Franklin Bible. Like, he basically put his own Bible together. Mm-hmm. And what they believed isn't anywhere close to what we believe, when the founding fathers and that whole age basically believed in what was called the clockmaker god, which is a different idea of the god we have here.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's weird because, like, when you look at this, like the Hellfire Club or whatever, when they say it's satanic, like, what? They may have been making fun of, there was so much turmoil in religion at this time between the Protestants, the Anglicans, the Catholics, we weren't too far removed from like the Crusades, like the Inquisitions. Like there was a lot of religious upheaval. I mean, so like.
The fuck was that?
I peed. A lot. Ugh.
His computer did something. We're sorry, Jesus.
I'm just saying they couldn't agree on it. I didn't say what was right.
Yeah,
It's historical fact.
And again, a lot of this being
That was so loud.
Scotland and a lot of these people being Scotch and Irish, there were a lot of, you'll call them pagans, I call them heathens in the area. And this may have been their way to kind of honor their traditional like religions. Like,
well, I was about to say at this point a lot of English, Scottish, Ireland, they were all infighting at this point. This is about the time of
they really hate each other.
They really fucking hate each other. Like, I mean,
well, one thing we know for sure about Dashwood is that this wasn't true of him. He was a pagan, through and through.
Yeah,
he had shrines to Bacchus and Venus. He even leased an abbey, the Midmenham Abbey, and it was dedicated to Bacchus, which, if you don't know, Bacchus is the god of wine, celebrations, insanity, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, theater, and fertility.
That's where the idea of Bacchanalia comes from.
Right,
also,
you get a Bacchanalia.
Also known as Dionysus.
Yeah. In the Greek ways.
Yep. So he had been inspired. So all the rich kids at this time would always go on a tour of England or tour of Europe. And when he was in Rome, he was really inspired by not only the architecture, but, the Roman gods. And he really, really became disenfranchised with Catholicism. He saw just a joke it was. And he really developed not a hatred, but just a lack of respect for religion. Mm-hmm. And so when he came back and he established his group, he used it to start these pagan worshiping, which I believe is how, if he's not worshiping God, then obviously, they're worshiping Satan.
Well, and also it was still a subset of that satirical society making fun of religion in general. Like that was why it was so
well, and he had to keep it fairly hidden. So his monks that were at his abbey, they had their virgin nuns who would visit them. But at the entrance to his, and I wrote this down somewhere, at the entrance to the temple of Bacchus, and where they would eat together and have their big feasts, he had Harpocrates, which is the Egyptian god of silence, and Engerona, which is the Roman goddess of silence. And they both had their finger to their lips, like shush, basically saying, what happens in this motherfucking abbey stays in this abbey. And surprisingly enough, is what the Freemasons use in their temples. So he was a Freemason. He was a lifelong Freemason. On his land, West Wycombe, there was a hill, and at the top of the hill, going back, there's ancient history going back as far as people can like recorded history. So there's an ancient fort there with a pit that's even back before the Bronze Age happened, and there was basically a Stonehenge built up top. And underneath the Stonehenge was a pagan catacomb filled with pagan dead, which were these caves that he ended up moving his Hellfire Club into. So they went in and they expanded it. They was an underground river they called the River Styx, and to get over it, you had to cross over it, which is basically the River Styx is passing from the mortal world to the immortal world. So you cross the River Styx, and it's in his inner sanctum, which is directly under the church sanctum above. And that's where they held black masses, because he was obsessed with black mass. But black mass isn't like what we think of them today. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a worship of Satan. Honestly, we don't really know.
Like,
this is where history gets clouded.
It's more like a Christian worship. It wasn't supposed to be.
It was like everything in what Christianity wasn't.
We think. Again, we still don't know because all the records are burned.
Yeah, they burned in 1774. We don't know.
They could have literally just been holding a Christian mass down there.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Or some sort of satirical version of it and called it a black mass because, people get scared easy.
And we do know that one wing was, again, dedicated to Bacchus and Venus. And then they worshipped Flora. What's the guy's name? Flora, Fauna. No, not Fauna.
I think it's
Daphne.
Oh, Daphne. That's what
Flora
it was.
and Priapus. So they worshipped all these gods of fertility, sex rights,
big orgies.
Big orgies, but he also worshipped gardens and plants, and then of course he had the river there, so he had Daphne at the river. And then Priapus is a protector of livestock, gardens, and the male genitalia. Mm-hmm. And Priapus is known, like if you ever see a painting of Priapus, he has an enormous erection and is always out. And it's heavily foreskinned.
I had a friend that got priapism one time, but he took a bunch of dick hard pills and
it lasted more than 4 hours.
He wanted when he did. He took 30 Viagra.
Do you ever question your friendships with people?
No, because like he was crying because it just hurt, and everybody's like, "You just go jerk off, bro." And he's like, "I already have like 9 times. It won't go away." And he's just like, not sobbing, but like weeping. And we're just throwing stuffed animals at his painful wiener.
You're playing horseshoes on him?
Uh-huh. And eventually he has to go to the hospital and have it drained. Like they have to needle it. And he has
because what happens is it gets
permanent nerve damage.
Yeah, because it gets full of blood and then it's blocked. Like it's swells shut.
Well.
Mm-hmm.
So now he has permanent dick nerve damage. Also, when I say a friend, this was not me. I'm not taking 30 dick hard pills. I'm not dumb. This kid was, though.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, they did perform, like, obscene rites of, like, religious rites. They would make them really obscene. There's a painting of Dashwood, and he's dressed like St. Francis. You know, his name's Francis Dashwood. So he's dressed like St. Francis, and then they have, like, a prostitute in, like, the ecstasy of St. Therese. And then the Bible is replaced by a book of pornography. And then his halo has the Earl of Sandwich, like, looking out of it at him like, hey, nice going. You know, so there's a lot of blasphemous stuff. And
these dudes just like to fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like to party and have fun.
It was an underground fuck club.
I joined.
I bet it smelled awful down
I was about to say.
1700s.
I was like, and you're in a cave and all that different stuff. Like, there's no, like... I don't know.
It's awful dank in here.
Already. I'm pretty sure there's like they're not aerating the area from the smells.
The members all had to dress in white, like cotton. So like they
grandmasters.
I'm telling you, it's probably how it got to be called grandmaster. And then the guy who voted in as the leader every year, he would have to dress in red, like a cardinal. And then when they so they could bring women. Now this wasn't Wharton who said men and women were equal. Dashwood's club didn't have women. But you could bring a female companion if she was of a cheery nature.
How do you measure that?
It's easy. Don't bring no sad bitchin' women in here. We're not dealing with their shit.
Bring a party picture girl.
You see a woman in the distance just frolicking through the field, and you're like, one of a cheery disposition.
Hey, girl, you like to fuck?
Well, yes, I do, sir.
Oh, are you talking to me?
Come with me!
Meanwhile, her sister's like reading like Jane Austen or something, sitting in a corner, like just crying. He's like, not that bitch.
Yeah.
That bitch can't.
Not her.
That boring whore can stay over there.
It's funny. One of the ghost stories that comes out of this was there's this spinster woman, like back in like the 1800s.
Oh.
And she was like, I don't believe in fucking ghosts. I didn't believe in fucking at all. Like she just was really, you know, she's in her 30s. She was like, hated everybody. And she went into the caves to prove that there weren't any ghosts or anything down there. And apparently she got groped by like a lot of hands, like in places that she said she'd never been probed before. So she leaves the caves and she's suddenly an nymphomaniac.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Or a good excuse to start fucking.
Yeah.
Suddenly her sexual awakening occurred.
Maybe she's like, you know what? I know how to get over this, the way people see me. I'm going to go pretend. I'm going to go
like
pretend.
most women do with men.
Well, that or, again, she may have been meeting a guy down... I mean...
I'm really just amused by this idea that...
and maybe she almost got caught, so she was like, it was a ghost.
Yeah, I mean, our cure for sad women until the early 1900s was, here's a vibrator and some heroin. Bet you'll feel better. Worked every time.
And I asked the doctor, must use this vibrator on you.
Yeah, I gotta watch.
I was about to say, I mean, spooky women.
I bet it was a lot.
It's a whole genre of women.
So we look at it like, especially like treating hysteria in women, as they called it. Like, we look at it from the doctor's end as way more sexual, but I mean, so like back then you have to think like there wasn't a lot of soaps or waters or cleanliness.
Yeah.
Also, like that was the thought I had, like the rate of rampant like gonorrhea and syphilis that got spread from just general exams on women from the doctors, because they didn't wear gloves or soap or anything. So whatever you got, the next person to come in there that he checks is also getting. And like, it's just ugh.
Oh, the vaginitis.
I mean, all of it, like, it just spread constantly. Mm-hmm. They would go from working on dead bodies to delivering babies.
That's why they chose women of cheery disposition, because how many women would you think feel really good after they have like syphilis and gonorrhea? They're probably like not feeling. The cheery disposition ones are the ones who are like, no man has ever touched me. Oh, here I come. Look at me.
Meanwhile, her hymen was bursted like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Or yeah, she gives no fucks.
I don't know.
I think they were just like, hey, don't bring no boring bitches in here.
That's what I think. She's got to be in a good way. And so in the catacombs, he had built like little cells for the monks to go down and enjoy, female companionship. But it wasn't just the monks, of course. But
right.
But you know what? His friend group, he started accepting more people. And, as happens with friend groups sometimes, especially...
You start a fuck club, people want to hang.
Yeah. And then they started fighting. So they had... they pulled a joke on the Earl of Sandwich. So he was really drunk and they were doing one of their black masses. And one of them let a monkey out of the box. And the Earl of Sandwich was like, "It's Satan! It's literally Satan! The devil's here!" And he got really pissed off about it. Because nobody said what happened specifically. Like, was he ready to worship Satan? Was he ready to, like, be like, you people are fucking idiots? But some shit went down.
Did the monkey murder someone, as monkeys are wont to do?
We
don't know.
We don't know. We just don't know.
Monkeys go for eyes
Did
and
the lady
genitals.
prefer the monkey? I don't know. But the Earl of Sandwich got really pissed off, and he decided he'd get revenge on the person who did it.
No more sandwiches.
Well, that would have been the best revenge, but no, he went after the two other writers who made fun of him the most in actual writing, and got them exiled from England. So pretty much after that, it was done.
I mean, he's still a duke, like...
Exactly. And to get them, like, exiled, he had to pretty much rat out the, the Hellfire Club, and then the other people he was ratted on the Hellfire Club. So at this point, it's pretty over.
England's real big on torture for blasphemy back then.
Yeah.
So you pretty much give up everybody as soon as they're like, hey... Heard you were a Satanist. Not me, but James
that
down the road.
Yeah.
That motherfucker loves the devil.
Yeah. So a lot of people talk about Paul Whitehead because he's the guy who supposedly has his beating heart ripped out of his chest in a satanic ritual. He died. And he willed his heart into a marble urn to be placed in Dashwood's catacombs. That's
Still weird, but
it's
whatever.
Weird.
Yeah, but if it's somewhere that you really...
Weird.
And it's hard for us to imagine how repressed you had to be in everyday life.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of fun in jolly old England back in the day.
To me, that was him saying,
my heart...
fun
in jolly old England now.
Yeah.
I think he would say my heart belonged here. We had fun.
This was where I had the most joy.
Are you saying his heart would go on?
Well, it didn't, because it was stolen in 1829 and nobody knows who it is.
Delicious jerky.
It could be somewhere, but maybe it is still going on, but I don't know.
Somebody has it at their fuck club now, and they're like, hey, check out this guy's heart.
It probably got, it probably got thrown away. A lot of that shit just gets trashed.
Yeah. And plus, think about it. Like, a heart doesn't really probably sustain itself for a long period of time. It probably, like, rots and wilts off. And somebody's like...
it's just meat.
Yeah. This smells weird. Maybe we should just throw it away. They stuck it in some Dawn dish soap and then started washing it, trying to get out whatever was in it.
Right. So with Wharton and Dashwood, we get a lot of, like, political people, poets, philosophizers, satirical artists and stuff. And, they didn't kill anybody. They weren't known for that. They were just known for being blasphemous and kind of over the top with it.
And they liked the sexy times.
But in Dublin, the Hellfire Club there, it's not that the Hellfire Club itself committed murders, but there were some pretty bad apples in this one.
Yeah.
So on top of Mount Pellier Hill is a hunting lodge, and it was built for an Irish parliamentary speaker, William Connolly, in 1725. Now, when he died, his widow let the Dublin Hellfire Club, also known as the Blasters, or the Young Bucks of Dublin, which just gets me every time.
Sounds like a gay club.
They leased it from his widow in 1735. Now, here's where So we were talking. There was one guy who he had a servant who was bedridden and really ill, and he forced him to drink a jug of brandy and then set him on fire and watched him burn. After he got drunk at the Hellfire Club, he did this. But this guy's just sadistic. This wasn't the Hellfire Club doing
right.
it.
Yeah.
This was...
Every group has bad members.
Yeah. So they're like, they use the Hellfire Club connections to get out of trouble. Okay, that happens a lot. I mean...
Yeah, that's like our political system as it is.
It's
yeah.
the good old boys club, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, are saying, oh, satanic stuff. But there is a supernatural element. But it's not to the Hellfire Club itself. It's to where they were located.
Yeah.
Because where the lodge is... They used the stone from an ancient, like prehistoric stone passage that went down into some tombs, which we still don't know who's buried there because they're just now digging it out as an archaeological site. But they stole these stones from this passage and built this lodge. So they're saying that whatever is down there, whether it's the devil himself or some spirit, was really displeased with this and came up and blew the wooden roof off the lodge. It's the big bad wolf. I mean...
I just really appreciated the sound effect that just went with that.
Done. But apparently the devil will come play cards with you. So there's this story of a man sitting there playing poker with this man who was really unusual man. He looked down and it was a cloven hoof. He was playing with the devil.
God damn it. To be fair,
Wow.
if I was God and I cast the devil somewhere on Earth, it'd be Ireland as well, because fuck that place.
Mm-hmm. And when you see these, when Becky and I were watching Expedition X, when we saw the stones, it's like something is off. Like, it's so unusual looking. You can tell that these stones they're old.
Yeah, quarried and brought in from somewhere else. But if you were going to build a lodge,
You
and there
just
was
use what you had.
already a bunch of stones
Yeah.
there in the 1700s.
Already cut perfectly.
Gonna use what we got.
Yeah.
Well, and it's if you listen to Expedition X the way they explain it, it's like Montpelier Hill is like the epicenter for all the bad things that happen with the Hellfire Club. It's not. There's like barely any reference to it. They may have rented it out. Like it's like if we went and rented the train depot for a party.
Yeah. And like they did build an extra room on there that nobody knows what it's used for. And it was an unusual room, but without any records.
But let's be honest.
Who goes?
It is 1700s. There's nothing going on. If I was bored, I'd build an unusual room too, just for shits and giggles. Because what else is there to do? Mary Winchester built an entire house because she thought ghosts were talking to her. Okay, and this was in the 1900s.
Well, we judge her too. So
that's what I'm saying. But like, it's like, oh, they built an unusual room in this area. I wonder what it was for. Mm-hmm. It's probably because they really liked their cat or something. You know, they're like, I want that.
You know, it was an unusual room in the 1700s. Anywhere where women could speak.
It's true.
Or had a cheery disposition.
Speaking of cats, there is a rather unusual cat, and now cat ghost. They said that from this stone passage, this huge cat that was the size of like a sheepdog with horns on his head and by his ears came up out of the stone passage. Hello?
That's definitely not an Irishman's drunk version of something he might have dreamed up at all.
At all.
Well,
I mean, they're only drinking and doing who knows what kind of drugs.
Well, and if you look at like the supernatural epicenters of the world, Ireland's pretty known for its supernatural shit. There's like probably, they talk about correlation does not equal like causation partially. And it's like, I probably saw this weird animal that may have been a devil dog, but just because I saw it here doesn't mean it was brought here by some like devil worshippers.
Well, and then in West Wycombe, you have the supernatural element being brought in, and that he used what was already there. And there was a Stonehenge temple with catacombs under it. And there was a temple, but I said it was Tabacus, but they don't actually, that's what he changed it to. Yeah, we don't know who it was to.
It was probably some pagan whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And we still don't know what Stonehenges were used for, but they are all over the world. So don't be shocked.
If you watched Outlander, you know it's to travel back in time.
Time travel.
So you can find your future husband.
Hello.
Future past husband?
They're also not Stargates.
Yeah.
By the way. If you're also thinking that, they're not.
We used to have our own Stonehenge, but then somebody got mad because America.
You know what they probably are? Astrological markers.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I
always thought it's probably like star finding for ancient people.
Well, we don't think about it, but back in the day, like, we assumed people worked sun up to sundown, but they didn't. They had a lot of downtime because there's only so much farming you can do.
Especially in the heat of the midday, you didn't really work then.
Yeah, but also at night, there's no light pollution. Yeah. You can watch the stars every night for your entire life and figure out how they move perfectly.
Yeah.
And these ancient cultures did. They figured out how many degrees the Earth moved every year. Like, because they just had nothing fucking else to do.
Mm-hmm.
That was their movie. So, like, having places where you could go and line up astrological signs makes a lot of sense if that's all you've got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. We're like judging him for building an unusual room, and all you have is look at the stars. Yeah, you probably are going to move some rocks around to figure out.
Now, I think Stonehenges are teleportation circles from ancient civilizations, but that's because I'm crazy.
Whatever.
I'm crazy and have no basis in any kind of fact.
Well, to be fair, we know the aliens are coming back. That could just be their landing pads.
You just don't know. You don't
know.
And maybe that particular stone absorbed some kind of energy.
Well,
but that's where the supernatural came in, and where the ghost stories come from is what was there before the Hellfire Clubs.
Well, there's so many weird ghost stories too with the Hellfire Club. Like there was a screaming baby and cats and a woman and the devil, and it's like, bro, pick fucking something. Is every ghost here?
I like to say like it's every gothic novel ever written.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna give me something supernatural and say you saw Bigfoot, you don't tell me you saw Bigfoot and a Dracula. They weren't fucking chilling. Like, fucking pick something, bro.
Hellfire Club.
And there's these girls who say they saw Francis Dash, or they said they saw a headless horseman on a white charger going up the hill. Well, you gotta pick a struggle. Driving. Are you Sleepy Hollow, or
what are we doing?
Or are you Francis Dashwood? Like, who's going up the? Where's his head? Nobody lost their head there. Nobody got executed for sedition.
Every ghost ever just hangs out.
Yeah. And then you hear like Francis Dashwood, Paul Whitehead beckons from the woods, but only till Francis Dashwood died. And how do people still see him? Like what? I mean, honestly, if my heart were bare, I'd be like, hey, you ready to go?
Yeah.
We can have some fun times over here, man.
I don't know. It is kind of annoying because it sounded so interesting, but there was a lot of like stuff. I was like, Satanism didn't really exist in the 1700s. There was I'm sure there was devil worship.
Satan. Yeah, I'm sure there was devil worship,
but not specifically to what we know it to
I
be.
think a lot of what we describe as Satanism back then is anything that was not monotheistic.
Yeah, right. And that's true. That's 100% true.
So, like, even if they were pagan, that was Satan worshiping. Like,
yeah,
it just is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Because there's no gods other than God, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Obviously,
like
you're devil worshiping.
If you're praying to Gaia, if you're praying to any god that's not basically Adonai,
and the fact that they were so blasphemous, I mean,
yeah, but if they were again, if their ancestors were pagan and they were trying to keep the traditions alive, to the church that would have been blasphemous. Yeah. To them, it just would have been, this is our tradition, but we can't do it in broad daylight because we'll be tortured.
Well, and so Wharton would have these dinners, and he would eat what's called the Holy Ghost pie, which was pigeon, which you weren't supposed to eat pigeons, but they would eat pigeons in these pies called the Holy Ghost pie. And they would just make fun of like the Last Supper and stuff.
Yeah.
So there were some things that could be seen as like legitimately blasphemous to Christians.
And a lot of this sounds like they're making fun of Catholicism almost specifically.
Specifically, that's what it was. Wharton and Dashwood both really, really
hated Catholics. A lot of people did. And again, we don't look at it the same way because like
we didn't live then.
Yeah, well that and all of our brands of Christianity sects pretty much get along. Mm-hmm. You don't see a lot of Protestants out fist fighting the Methodists. Yeah. Whereas 1700s, the Protestants 100% murdered the Anglicans constantly.
Yeah.
Back and forth. They're just, the Catholics went to war with other brands of Christianity because the Pope was basically a war leader.
And brutally murdered, we're not talking about thousands. He probably murdered half the world at one point in the Crusades.
To be fair, the Muslims started the Crusades. They kind of got what was coming to them for that shit. Maybe calm the fuck down if you don't have the numbers or the war. But again, I'm not saying they deserved it. But
Why are y'all looking at me? I'm not a Muslim.
Listen, Brownie.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's right. You goddamn right. Now, what I'm saying is...
the only monotheism religion.
I believe in one God and three persons.
Well, you just think like you played cards on Sunday, boom. Heathen.
That's Southern Baptist anyway.
It used to be eating meat on a Friday made you a heathen. Like, the rules have changed. But, like, even with the Crusades... that started as, like, Muslims trying to branch out into Catholic-held lands, and the Catholics were like, oh, you have fucked up. Mm-hmm. And they did. And again, to this day, even with that, we're looking at, like, Jerusalem, where it's pretty Jewish, pretty Muslim, and pretty Christian, and it's just like, you guys, they just don't get along.
I think the Catholics fucked up with the Inquisition. If you had just held off on that, you maybe could have ruled the whole world.
It still would have been hard. It's just the numbers thing. Like, anybody that wanted to rule the world back then, you look at Xerxes and the Catholics.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah, Constantine. They could make it pretty far, but there's a limit. It's just a numbers game.
Yeah. Even Alexander the Great.
Yeah, and
you're eventually going to spread thin.
Well, that and travel and time is really a problem because if I'm going from Rome to England, that's a 45-minute train ride now. It was a 3-week march then.
And you had to feed everybody.
Yeah, it's a pain. So you can only go so thin. So ruling the world back then would have been almost impossible. But you could have fucked some people up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people did.
I just think that in this whole conversation, the Hellfire Club is a great representation of the Hellfire Club from Stranger Things, if you think about it.
I was thinking that earlier.
They were a satanic worshiping club.
Exactly.
Really,
I was thinking
games.
How smart the people who wrote Stranger Things was to call that the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, because everybody thought it was satanic worship.
It's satanic, and they just meant to have fun and play games and probably drink.
Well, that was also playing off the satanic panic of the 80s
and
90s.
Like, that's why
it's so nice.
It's like pretty layered when you think about it.
It is.
I mean,
I was thinking, I'm like, that is quite smart writing right there.
So if you see anything about the Hellfire Club, like the real one, and they're like, oh, it's so spooky. Nope.
It's not.
I think the stories around, it's always interesting to talk about secret societies because they're allegedly secret societies. You want to know, what were they doing? But I think a lot of people just know now, hey, if you were going to do something, you were bored. What else were you to do?
The biggest secret society that Wharton and Dashwood were both in were the Freemasons.
And believe me, that shit's boring as hell.
That's pretty much...
And I mean, really all they wanted to do, it was DTF.
Well, and that's the thing is, I look at it as, them having their private life wishes fulfilled. That they couldn't do that in public. There's no way.
No.
You couldn't say bad things in public.
Yeah, they're men of letters during the day.
Yeah.
And then they can actually come and just...
They started their own
live
place.
freely at night.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many of those secret societies back then started that way.
Probably
is that there were hundreds of gentlemen's clubs like
Yeah.
this. And you don't know what they did on the inside.
Yeah, whatever the fuck they wanted that they couldn't do outside.
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus you're in a very spooky area as it is.
Well,
it just makes for good storytelling.
And you have mutual assured destruction because James isn't going to say what went on in here because he was fucking in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't know if he wasn't already
That's
here.
Exactly
Yeah.
it.
So everybody gets to do the things they want to do, but it also gets to stay quiet.
That's right. So, in Dashwood's group, when the Earl of Sandwich went to war with the What's His Biscuits,
he
he
just threw them
took
all under the
everybody
bus.
down, including himself.
You have to.
Yeah.
If you do that, you go down with them, and that's...
Yeah. And Dashwood was given an appointment, so think of a finance management appointment, and he couldn't even count on one hand, this kind of thing. So it's how was he?
Because he was rewarded for his coming forward.
I mean, he eventually resigned, but he was still a member of parliament. But these are the people who were in.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you're that level of elite, it's hard to not be that level of elite.
I can't say that I wouldn't, if I lived in the time it could have been, I would definitely have been part of this club.
Yeah, I'd have
absolutely 100%.
Real
There's
tired
nothing else to do. Of course you want to be part of a club. I mean, honestly, who would want to just...
It's not just that. It's these guys have money and privilege.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not out tilling the fields.
No.
They're not washing the clothes.
They've got a lot of time.
Yeah.
Think about and this is 100 years later, but think of the Regency era in England, where all these women, all they did was get up in the morning, eat breakfast, go walk,
and they're
parks.
told that even having sex with their husband shouldn't happen unless you're going for a child.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Should be no pleasure.
Think about it. There's nothing going on when you're that rich and have nothing to do. I mean, hello. Some people, even now, people get in a small, tiny vessel to go see the Titanic. They have nothing better to do.
No, that's true. You've done everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What's left to do?
Nothing's really
that
changed.
And the mindset of these guys, you have to think the level of privilege they have. They can basically do anything they want in public that is thought of as not dirty or, but they still want to do those other things, but they have to do them quietly in private. They're not used to being told, no, you can't do this unless it doesn't meet the rules of decorum.
Yeah.
And if they're hiding it, who gives a fuck about decorum?
Yeah.
Well, thanks Expedition X for ruining it. But I mean, here's the thing.
But at least we know.
Well,
but at least we know. And
they explored the conspiracy theory part of it.
Yes.
They didn't create the fact that it was Satanic Club or those theories about it. They just explored it.
But you know what? It's also an interesting topic because I think a lot of people just don't know about the Hellfire Club. And if you do, you may have one idea or another. A lot of people don't deep dive into secret societies. That's like Chris and Angie.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be here.
I was really hoping the Masons would be way more interesting than they are. They're not. They're not.
Devil worshippers.
I wish.
Devil worshippers.
I wish. At least that'd be interesting.
I'm about to say, like, a lot of these secret societies just get pegged as... just saying,
that probably happened down there, too. We don't know.
No, but, like, they get pegged as, like, Satan-worshipping clubs.
I can't help
because
it.
people don't know.
Because people don't know, and there's something outside the norm of our society. Like, you're not allowed to find out what they're doing unless you do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
It's
an exclusive club that... Again, with like the Freemasons, women couldn't be a member.
Right.
Mind you, they had their own version, which was the Eastern Star, which was only women. Men couldn't be a member.
Yeah.
No one cares about them. Until the 90s, black people couldn't be in the Masons. They had their own thing, was Prince Hall Masons.
Right.
Now they're all one thing. But no one was like, Prince Hall Masons were satanic.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing. It was just like this one group that's exclusive. Well, clearly they're doing illegal shit.
Right.
Fuck, I wish.
Yeah.
Anything.
They're bringing about the end of the world.
Anything.
They're saving you from the end of the world.
It's mostly just boring. I'll be honest. It's mostly boring old men. Talking about what your grandpa talks about? That's what they're talking about.
To be fair, there's not really a lot of like need for a secret society since everything can be inclusive now. Like, you want to do weird butt stuff, as long as it's not illegal, go for it.
There's supposed to be a community outreach program basically now. Like, the idea with Masons and the Shriners is that they help the communities they exist in. I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we want some secret cult shit too.
It's not as...
I just want you to sacrifice one of the babies you saved from cancer.
It's not even that.
Is that too much to ask?
It's really, if you cut that out of context, that's really funny.
Shriners are mostly burn victims.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Shriners Hospital is mostly children.
I want you to just sacrifice one of them you saved from burning. Just one.
That's called murder.
If someone at least said that, I'd be like, oh. Nope.
You see Chris Waddle, you have a good time, buddy. Bye.
You know what? I'll go and be honest. With the Shriners, you have a set dollar amount you're supposed to raise. They don't keep a penny of it. When you see those dudes with the fezzes out there collecting money, they're getting 0% of that. 100%. More than Goodwill, more than Susan G. Komen. I donate to the Shriners because I know where that money goes.
Yeah.
I don't donate to some other causes because I know where that money goes.
Yeah.
Well, this is why we just need to believe in the UFOs, because that's the last thing left to really bring us hope that something weird's happening in the world. That's not true.
Demons are still real. They're just not at Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately. Maybe in that stone passageway leading down to wherever that is, maybe there's a demon. We don't know. We don't know.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Hi, this is my math demon. 2x4.
Oh my god. All right.
What would Brian Boitano do?
Goodbye.
Right, bye.
Love you.